The night sky over the colony was filled with unfamiliar stars, distant and cold. On this isolated planet at the edge of human space, every day was a struggle for survival. The settlers had chosen this world for its rich resources and strategic location, but they hadn't counted on the savage creatures lurking in the dense forests beyond their walls. Inside the colony's command center, Commander Elena Voss stared at the flickering screens with growing dread. The alien attacks were relentless, more vicious than anything their scouts had reported. The once secure perimeter was breached, the outer defenses crushed by waves of monstrous beasts with razor-sharp claws and teeth like jagged knives. Elena, the eastern wall is down. They're pouring through. The communications officer shouted, voice trembling. Elena clenched her jaw, eyes hard. Activate emergency protocols. Seal all sectors. We hold the central hub at all costs. But deep down, she knew it wasn't enough. The colony's forces were outnumbered and outmatched. Their energy weapons barely slowed the creatures, and the bioshield generators were flickering under constant strain. Panic was spreading among the colonists, fear etched on every face. In the communications bay, Lieutenant Mark Hayes gripped the transmitter. Commander, we're out of options. Reinforcements won't arrive in time. Elena's mind raced. They had no choice left. The colony's automated distress beacon, once a last resort, had to be activated. It was a long shot, but it was all they had. Do it, she said quietly. Mark's fingers moved swiftly, sending a coded signal across the void. The message was simple but urgent. Help needed. Colony under attack. Survival at risk. Hours passed like an eternity. Outside, the colony's defenses held just barely. The creatures howled in frustration, a chilling chorus beneath the dim glow of the emergency lights. Families huddled together, clinging to hope and prayers. Then, deep in the blackness of space, the signal was received. Far beyond the stars, a fleet stirred. The colonists didn't know it yet, but the help they had called for was unlike anything they could have imagined. And it was coming fast. The first warning came as a faint blip on the colony's long-range sensors, barely noticeable at first. Lieutenant Mark Hayes squinted at the screen, the same screen that moments ago had only shown empty space beyond the colony's orbit. Commander, Mark said, voice steady but filled with disbelief. We've got unidentified ships approaching, multiple targets, large signatures, and they're human. Elena Voss leaned in, heart pounding. She'd expected help, but not this. Stories had circulated in hushed tones across human settlements, tales of the Deathworlders, survivors from a brutal planet where only the strongest endured, warriors who didn't just survive, they thrived in the deadliest conditions imaginable. And now those warriors were coming to their rescue. The fleet's massive warships cut through space like shadows of war. They were unlike anything the colonists had seen, towering hulls etched with battle scars, bristling with weapon arrays, engines glowing with raw power. Their presence alone was enough to silence the colony's fear for a moment, replaced by awe and uncertainty. Elena's voice broke through the tension. Open a channel. Static filled the command center before a deep, calm voice emerged, gruff, authoritative, and unmistakably human. This is Commander Rourke of the Deathworld Fleet. We received your distress signal. Prepare for immediate assistance. There was no hesitation, no questions about alliances or politics. The Deathworlders didn't negotiate, they acted. Their reputation for brutal efficiency preceded them, and the colonists could only hope that reputation was true. The warships moved into orbit with deliberate precision, dropping heavy firepower on the alien forces ravaging the colony's outskirts. They shattered the invaders' ranks with terrifying speed. Explosions lit the sky like violent stars, and the alien creatures fell back, stunned by the overwhelming force. Inside the colony, soldiers and civilians alike watched as their saviors unleashed destruction upon the hostile creatures. The Deathworlders fought with a ferocity that seemed almost primal, using tactics and weapons no one else dared employ. Who are these people? One young colonist whispered to her friend, eyes wide with a mix of fear and admiration. Elena stood tall, her earlier doubts replaced by a cautious hope. They're humanity's finest, the Deathworlders. Yet even as the aliens retreated, the air was thick with tension. The arrival of the Deathworlders was a game-changer, but it also raised questions no one was ready to answer. What price would the colony pay for this brutal protection? And what was the true nature of the warriors who had come to save them? As the stars shimmered coldly above, one thing was clear. The Deathworlders had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. The night after the battle, the colony's command center was alive with uneasy energy. The alien threat had been pushed back, but the cost and the consequences were only beginning to settle in. Alina Voss paced quietly, her thoughts tangled in the strange new reality the Deathworlders had brought. Commander Rourke stood across the room, a tall figure in worn battle armor, his expression unreadable. The colonists had gathered around, curiosity battling fear as they sought to understand their rescuers. Whispers passed among them, stories and rumors about the Deathworlders, but no one knew the full truth. "Tell us about your home," Alina finally said, breaking the silence. "What is this Deathworld?" Rourke's gaze darkened, memories flickering behind his eyes. "Our world is called Vekthar," he began. "It's not a place for the weak. The atmosphere is toxic. Storms rage for weeks, and every living thing there fights to survive. From the predators that hunt in packs to the terrain that tries to swallow you whole. It's a constant battle just to stay alive." A murmur ran through the crowd. The colonists had heard of harsh planets before, but this sounded different, more brutal. "We're not just survivors," Rourke continued. "We're forged by the struggle. Children learn to fight before they can walk. Every skill, every instinct, is honed to face death every day. Weakness is not tolerated. We fight smart, fast, and without hesitation." One of the older colonists, a veteran soldier named Harris, spoke up. "And what about mercy? Compassion? Are those things you still hold?" Rourke's eyes flickered with something like respect. "Mercy is earned, not given. We protect those who prove themselves worthy. But when it comes to threats, especially threats to humanity, there's no room for second chances." Alina felt a chill despite the warmth of the room. These were not the peacekeepers the colony had hoped for. These were warriors shaped by hardship, and their sense of justice was as sharp as their blades. "What brings you here, really?" Alina pressed. "Are you here to save us, or something else?" Rourke's voice was low but steady. "We answer the call because it's our duty. But understand this, we don't take sides lightly. We come to those who fight to survive, and to those who respect the strength it takes." "You sent a signal," we answered, "but survival is never free." As the night wore on, stories spilled out, tales of the Deathworld's brutal contests, the training grounds where children faced deadly trials, the battles against alien invaders and rival factions. It was a culture where pain forged power, and every day was a fight for existence. The colonists listened, some with awe, others with apprehension. The Deathworlders were no strangers to violence or sacrifice, and their presence was a stark reminder that humanity's future might depend on embracing a fiercer side of itself. Alina realized that their survival depended not just on the Deathworlders' strength, but on understanding what it truly meant to be human in a galaxy filled with dangers. The line between savior and conqueror was thin, and tonight it was drawn in sharp relief. The sun rose over the battered colony, casting long shadows on the damaged walls and shattered defenses. The presence of the Deathworlders had shifted the atmosphere. No longer just desperation, but a strange mix of hope and unease. Alina Voss gathered her officers in the war room. The alien threat was still out there, lurking beyond the perimeter, and their uneasy alliance with the Deathworlders would be tested like never before. Commander Rourke stood at the head of the table, his imposing figure commanding attention. His eyes scanned the holographic map, pinpointing enemy movements and weak spots. "These creatures are relentless," he said, voice low but fierce. "We'll need to adapt, fight harder and smarter. Their numbers won't slow down just because we hold a line." Alina nodded, though the weight of responsibility pressed down on her. "Your tactics, they're unlike anything we've used before. Brutal and efficient." Rourke shrugged, almost casually. "Efficiency wins wars. Hesitation gets people killed." The colonists weren't prepared for the Deathworlders' approach to warfare. Their methods were harsh: ambushes in the dead of night, traps designed to cripple rather than kill quickly, and relentless pressure that wore down even the toughest enemies. Some colonists whispered that the Deathworlders fought like predators, using every trick and every fear to their advantage. During one brutal skirmish at the colony's northern perimeter, the Deathworlders showed what that really meant. Under cover of darkness, they led a small squad into the aliens' nesting grounds. Using silent weapons and ruthless precision, they tore through the creatures' defenses, leaving chaos and confusion in their wake. Back at the colony, survivors watched through the command center's surveillance feeds, some horrified by the merciless carnage, others relieved by the sudden shift in momentum. Private Jenna Wells, a young soldier barely out of training, whispered to her squad, "They don't fight like us. They don't hesitate." Alina saw the fear in her eyes, but also the spark of something else: respect. The Deathworlders were a harsh mirror of what humanity could become when pushed to the edge. But not all the colonists embraced the alliance. Councilman Rauner voiced his concerns sharply during a tense meeting. "We invited saviors, not conquerors. Their methods risk turning us into the very monsters we fear." Alina weighed the words carefully. She understood the risks, but also knew that survival demanded sacrifices. The aliens wouldn't wait, and neither could they. "Trust is earned," Alina said quietly. "For now, we fight together. We learn from each other, but we don't forget who we are." The uneasy truce was fragile, but necessary. As the sun climbed higher, the alien forces regrouped for another assault. This time, the colony was ready, backed by the Deathworlders' relentless will to survive and win. The battle ahead would test not just weapons and tactics, but the fragile bond between two very different kinds of humans, united by necessity, divided by philosophy, and driven by the same fierce desire to live. The colony's night was shattered by the shrill alarm of incoming danger. The alien horde had not given up. Instead, they had learned. They were smarter, faster, more organized than before. Alina Voss stood on the observation deck, watching the dark shapes moving beyond the outer defenses. The creatures weren't just attacking, they were coordinating. Their howls echoed like a terrifying war chant, growing louder with every wave that surged toward the colony's walls. Commander Rourke's Deathworlder squad was already in position, weapons ready. His sharp gaze scanned the horizon. "They think they can overwhelm us with numbers," he said coldly. "They'll learn the cost of underestimating humanity." The battle began with a fury no one could have predicted. Swarms of the alien beasts poured over the defenses in a relentless flood, their claws tearing through walls and armor alike. The colonists fought desperately, energy weapons firing in streaks of blue light, but the creatures seemed endless. Amid the chaos, the Deathworlders moved with deadly precision. Their tactics were brutal, terrifying, and effective. They struck from the shadows, setting traps that exploded in fire and shrapnel. Their close combat skills were unmatched, turning every melee into a savage dance of survival. Private Jenna Wells found herself fighting alongside a Deathworlder named Kess. His movements were fluid and fierce, each strike calculated to end the fight quickly and without mercy. "Don't hesitate," Kess growled. "Survive or die trying." Jenna's heart pounded, but she matched his intensity, surprising herself. The alien creatures were horrifying, but so was the desperate determination in her own veins. Back in the command center, Alina coordinated reinforcements, issuing orders with sharp clarity. The colony's defenses held by a thread, but the Deathworlders' brutal counterattacks kept the enemy from overrunning the base completely. Hours passed in a blur of violence. The alien horde's numbers slowly began to dwindle, their ferocity weakening under the relentless pressure. Still, every victory came at a cost. Wounded and exhausted colonists struggled to keep up. In the dim light of dawn, the last wave of attackers retreated into the jungle, their howls fading, but not forgotten. Alina breathed a shaky sigh of relief. "We held," she said softly. Rourke nodded, eyes still sharp. "This fight isn't over. They'll be back, and next time, they might be stronger." But in that moment, the colony had a new strength. one forged in fire and blood, tempered by the Deathworlders' ruthless will to survive. Humanity was still standing. The dawn brought a fragile calm, but the battle had changed everything. The colony was battered, yet alive, and something deeper had shifted in its people. Where once there was fear, now stirred a fierce resolve. Commander Elena Voss walked through the camp, watching her soldiers tend to the wounded and repair the shattered defenses. The Deathworlders worked alongside them, their presence a powerful reminder that survival demanded more than hope. It required strength and unity. Private Jenna Wells, still bruised but standing tall, approached Elena. "They fight like nothing I've ever seen. It's like they're not just defending. They're setting an example." Elena nodded, eyes steady. "That's the Deathworlder way. They don't just survive. They thrive on challenge, and they believe humanity can do the same." Word spread quickly through the colony. News of the Deathworlders' fierce courage inspired others. Farmers picked up rifles. Engineers became medics. Even children helped carry supplies. A quiet but undeniable spirit of defiance grew, weaving through the hearts of every colonist. Elena called a gathering in the central plaza. Her voice carried over the crowd, steady and clear. "We have faced darkness and survived. We are not victims. We are fighters. Today, we stand not only because of the Deathworlders, but because we found strength within ourselves. Together, we will fight to protect this home." The crowd erupted in cheers, their hope reignited. Commander Rourke stepped forward, his voice low but commanding. "Strength is not given. It is earned. You have earned it. Remember this feeling. Let it fuel your courage in the battles ahead." Training intensified. The Deathworlders shared their tactics, teaching the colonists to think like hunters, to move with precision and confidence. The colonists learned to fight smarter, harder, faster. During drills, Jenna watched as her comrades transformed from frightened survivors into disciplined warriors. The fear in their eyes was replaced by determination, a spark ignited by the Deathworlders' example. Even the alien creatures seemed to sense the change. Their raids became less frequent, as if wary of a colony no longer trembling beneath their claws. Yet the threat was far from gone. In quiet moments, Elena and Rourke spoke of what lay ahead. The Deathworlders had not arrived merely to defend, but to prepare the colony for a larger war, one that could determine humanity's place in the galaxy. But for now, there was victory in unity. The colony was no longer just a fragile outpost on a hostile world. It had become a symbol of humanity's fierce spirit, unyielding, relentless, and ready to fight. Elena looked to the horizon, the twin suns rising over the jungle's edge. They had survived the night, but the war was just beginning, and humanity would meet it head-on. The colony's hard-won peace was fragile, and the alien threats still loomed beyond the horizon. But the Deathworlders did not intend to wait for the enemy to strike again. They were hunters as much as warriors, and now they were ready to take the fight to the invaders' home turf. Commander Rourke stood on the bridge of the flagship, the Armada's command vessel humming with controlled power. Around him, warships of every size and shape filled the vast hangar bay, ready to launch into the unknown. "Elena," he said, turning to the colony's commander, "defense only delays the inevitable. If we want to protect humanity, we must confront the source of this threat. The aliens' homeworld holds secrets, resources, weapons, and a heart of darkness that fuels their aggression." Elena nodded, her gaze steady. The colony was no longer just fighting for survival. It was preparing to become the spearhead of humanity's counterattack. The Armada launched in unison, a magnificent display of power and resolve. The ships tore through space, engines blazing, cutting a path toward the alien homeworld deep within a hostile system. Inside the Armada, humans of every background moved with purpose. Soldiers, engineers, strategists, all united under one goal: to end the alien threat before it could spread. The fleet's approach was met with resistance. Alien patrol ships swarmed, launching desperate attacks. But the Deathworlders' tactics proved superior. Coordinated strikes shattered enemy vessels, and boarding parties overwhelmed hostile crews with relentless ferocity. As the Armada closed in, the true scale of the alien world's defenses became clear. Massive fortresses orbited the planet, guarded by automated turrets and vast fleets of aggressive drones. "This won't be easy," Work warned. "But we fight not just for this colony, but for every human world that could fall next." The battle for the alien homeworld was brutal and unyielding. The Deathworlders led ground assaults, navigating treacherous terrain and deadly ecosystems that rivaled their own harsh planet. They fought not just alien soldiers, but the very environment itself. Back aboard the flagship, Elena coordinated supply lines and reinforcements, learning from the Deathworlders' experience and adapting quickly. The alien forces were pushed back inch by inch, their domination unraveling under the relentless assault. And through it all, humanity's spirit blazed brighter than ever. This was no longer just survival. It was a declaration, a promise that humanity would not be hunted. It would hunt in return. The Armada's advance sent a message across the stars. When humans fight, they bring an unstoppable force, and they do not back down. As the battle raged on, Elena realized something profound. The Deathworlders were not just warriors of a harsh world. They were the embodiment of humanity's indomitable will to fight for its future. The final battle raged beneath the alien planet's dark skies, where towering spires of twisted metal and alien crystal dominated the horizon. The Deathworlders and colonists fought side by side, their combined strength pushing the enemy closer to collapse. Commander Elena Voss stood at the forefront of the assault, her heart pounding with fierce determination. Years of fear, loss, and sacrifice had led to this moment. Around her, the battle-hardened warriors moved with precision and fury, each step a testament to humanity's will to survive. The alien forces, once overwhelming in number and ferocity, now faltered. Their defenses cracked under the relentless pressure. Explosions rocked the landscape, sending shockwaves through the enemy's strongholds. Commander Work, bloody but unbowed, led a squad deep into the heart of the enemy base. "This ends now," he growled. The Deathworlders' ruthless efficiency left no room for mercy, but their goal was clear: to break the enemy's command and bring an end to the war. Inside the command center, Elena coordinated the final strike. The colony's future, the lives of every human, depended on their success. When the last alien leader fell, silence spread like a wave. The skies cleared, and a strange calm settled over the battlefield. Victory was theirs, but it came at a cost. The once vibrant alien world was scarred, its ecosystems shattered by the war. The cost of survival weighed heavily on Elena's mind. Back at the colony, celebrations were tempered with reflection. The Deathworlders' brutal methods had saved them, but the price of war had revealed uncomfortable truths about humanity's own nature. Elena addressed the gathered colonists and warriors alike. "We have won this battle, but the war for our future is ongoing. We must remember that strength without compassion can become tyranny. Our victory must be the foundation for something better." Work nodded solemnly. "We fight for survival, but we must also fight for humanity's soul." The alliance between the colonists and the Deathworlders became a symbol, a reminder that survival required not only strength, but unity and understanding. As the colony rebuilt, new leaders rose, inspired by the lessons learned in the crucible of war. Technology and tactics evolved, but so did the values that defined them. Elena stood once more beneath the stars, looking out at the vastness of space. The galaxy was no longer a place of unknown dangers alone. It was a place of possibility, shaped by those willing to fight for a future worth living. The Deathworlders had brought an Armada. They had brought war. But from the ashes, they had also brought hope. And humanity, fierce and unyielding, was ready to face whatever came next.